Welcome to SBS News in Easy English. I'm Greg Dyett. President Joe Biden has confirmed the United States has killed the leader of Al-Qaeda in a drone strike in Afghanistan. Mr. Biden says Ayman al-Zawahiri died in a counter-terror operation carried out by the CIA in the Afghan capital, Kabul.
He was deeply involved in the planning of 9/11, one of the most responsible for the attacks that murdered 2,977 people on American soil. For decades, he was the mastermind behind attacks against Americans.
The federal opposition says the reduction in the fuel excise tax should be extended for another 6 months. The price reduction is due to end at the end of September, which means the price of petrol is likely to rise by 22 cents per litre. Liberal Senator James Paterson says the government should extend the reduction.
And I think it would be reasonable to do so because if they don't, then Jim Chalmers will be responsible for the 22 cent a litre increase that every Australian will pay when they fill up next at the Bowser.
Victorian MPs are returning to the state's parliament for the first of 4 sitting weeks after a winter break. The Andrews government is to introduce new laws to parliament that will give police more powers to investigate organised crime groups, confiscate assets, and target cyber criminals. Important koala habitats in southeast Queensland will be protected from development after it was revealed money put aside for a research centre was spent on a theme park roller coaster. A 4 square kilometre site on the Gold Coast will become a dedicated conservation area. The additional conservation announcement follows news that $2.7 million of public funding for a wildlife research centre at Dreamworld was instead spent on a roller coaster. Experts warn the global reputation of the Australian mining sector is at stake, with the industry falling short on safety, particularly for women. The mining sector is in the spotlight after a damning Western Australian inquiry found the industry failed to protect women from sexual predators. The New South Wales government has extended the Refugee Employment Support Program delivered by Settlement Services International. Refugees and people seeking asylum living across the state will continue to have access to pathways to secure long-term employment until December 2023. In 5 years, the program has assisted up to 8,000 refugees and 2,000 people seeking asylum in Western Sydney and the Illawarra regions. A former Premier of South Australia has called for early education to be discussed at the upcoming Jobs Summit in Canberra. The Jobs Conference is expected to focus on expanding employment opportunities and addressing skill shortages, especially in key sectors. Jay Weatherall, who is now leading the early childhood-focused Minderoo Foundation, says early childhood centres are experiencing worker shortages and a high turnover. He says it's important to find solutions.
So the precondition for success at the Job and Skills Summit is to first get early educators right.
I'm Greg Dyett, And that's SBS News in Easy English. Welcome to SBS News in Easy English. I'm Greg Dyatt. Greens leader Adam Bandt has confirmed his party will vote for the government's climate change bill, though he says it's still too weak. The Greens have been calling for an end to all new coal and gas mines across Australia, but Labor has refused to negotiate on the issue. The party instead will push for a climate trigger on environmental laws, which will force consideration of environmental impacts on all new projects. The government will need the support of one other crossbencher in the Senate to pass the bill. Stuart Ayres has resigned from the New South Wales Ministry and as the state's Deputy Liberal leader. A draft review into the John Barilaro New York City job scandal found he may have breached the Ministerial Code of Conduct. The recruitment process for the New York-based trade role is the subject of a New South Wales parliamentary inquiry. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese says he acknowledges there are diverging views among Indigenous Australians on the voice to Parliament and the Uluru Statement from the Heart. The Labor government is committed to implementing the Uluru Statement from the Heart in full, with a treaty the second aspect of the process. The Prime Minister says this national discussion may not be easy, but it is sensible.
Do I expect every Australian on the roll to vote yes? No, I don't. And that's important that people are able to express their views. But overwhelmingly, this is a sensible proposition.
The federal government is announcing medically vulnerable children aged 6 months to under 5 years of age can now receive the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine. It means some 70,000 children who are immunocompromised, living with complex health conditions or a disability, can receive a smaller version of the adult dose. The head of the Comanchero Motorcycle Club, Mark Buddle, has been arrested in Australia after fleeing the country in 2016. Australian Federal Police say the 37-year-old was arrested in Darwin following his deportation from Turkey. He is accused of importing more than 160 kilograms of cocaine into Melbourne in May last year. Foreign Minister Penny Wong has called for calm and a de-escalation of tensions between Beijing and Washington after US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan. Ms. Pelosi became the highest-ranking American official in 25 years to visit the country. China has condemned the visit by Ms. Pelosi, saying it's a threat to peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait. The Australian Electoral Commission says its partnership with online platforms during the federal election campaign resulted in less false information being circulated. Commissioner Tom Roberts says the decision to link with Facebook, Twitter, Google and Microsoft helped prevent the spread of harmful content online. The Commission identified 31 pieces of misinformation on Twitter alone and referred several posts for removal. Former Victorian Labor MP Jane Garrett will be honoured with a state memorial in September after she died from cancer last month. 49-year-old Ms. Garrett died in early August. I'm Greg Dyett, and that's SBS News in Easy English.